the block.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Rich Growth listeners. Today I have Dina. She is the founder of Families First Mediation, founder of The Complete Divorce, practicing this podcast. And we talked to a lot of people talking about overcoming adversity. And probably Dina, when she's talking, she's going to probably talk about a lot of adversity going through a lot of divorces. So it's going to be a interesting, I think, take on the podcast. But thank you, Dina, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Vinny. I'm excited to be here.
Just describe yourself, your elevator pitch. When people ask, what do you do?
So I am a divorce mediator here in California. I help high complex cases settle their cases outside of court. It's allowing people to stay in control over their divorce process, have a space that they feel empowered to make the right choices for themselves and their family at a fraction of the cost of what traditional litigation. I'm also, like you said, the founder of The Complete Divorce, which is a guided do-it-yourself divorce process in California. We have a form software that is AI generated with questions and answers, and an MSA available as like a contract that allows people to do their entire divorce, which I'm very proud of, without ever having to go to court for very low fee. And so it's ideal for people with simple cases, or, they don't have the resources or want to spend a lot of money because they're not complicated on a divorce process.
What's the interpretation from your colleagues on having a platform that, and it's not going to be across the board, of course, right? There's only be a select few that are actually going to probably use that, right? Which is still a big portion of the market. And is there ever any kind of pushback of because I know in the real estate field, we see the 1% broker and things like that. And you're like, okay, what are they doing? They're devaluing what we do. Is there any of that kind of perception or not really?
Mm-hmm. So surprisingly, in family law, most people are self-represented. It means they don't use an attorney to go through court. So they're usually looking for an alternative to using attorneys. It's really the other group that gets, the people who are looking for attorneys, have complicated cases that end up in that route. So I think colleagues are happy to have another place to send people where they get enough information. Because with The Complete Divorce, it's not one of the programs that's available in all 50 states. I'm really focused just for California. It was intentional on my part to meet a need that's out there in the market, because most people don't know what they don't know. And that's why they're going to attorneys, but they can't afford it. And if you go in family law, there's self-help centers in every county, but you've got to wait all day. You get 15 minutes. And so how do you get the education out there so people know what they're going to do, and they're not just filling out forms? So included, in the program, I did all these videos. I broke down all the law, all the options, the strategies that 90% of people need, right? It's the other 10 or even 20% that need more, that probably The Complete Divorce doesn't fit for them. But this way, there's an option out there, right? And I think people appreciate that. You don't have to be licensed to do family law. You can be self-represented. And so for some people, it's just a question of getting the forms done and getting a basic agreement that's going to be satisfactory to them.
So I think a lot of people know that divorces, especially when there's kids involved, they could take, 18 years, 20 years for the process, right? Changing stuff. When you use the forms yourself, what's the quickest from actually starting the paperwork, going to the judge, getting the stamp, things like that? What does that usually take?
Yeah. So if you boil it down, the divorce only has 4 steps. You file your petition and response, you do your financial disclosures, reach an agreement, file the agreement with the court. So if you're keeping it that tight, you could technically get it done as soon as you like. You just need to get the papers into the courthouse. You don't have to go before a judge. There's some service requirements. I would say at least a month to get your papers back and forth and, do your disclosures and things like that. But typically people take at least, 3 to 6 months when they're doing it on their own, because you're learning, you've got to file stuff, you got to get it back from the court, then do the next step, things of that nature. But it doesn't have to take what the traditional time frame is, 2 years in family law, if you're using attorneys.
Okay, so let's rewind to young Dina. Did she always have aspirations to be in the family law space, or what was the original aspirations, I guess?
It's actually, I did. And I don't know how. Yes. Okay. I remember in the 6th grade being on the playground, and my friend said to me, my mom is using an attorney. And I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what attorneys were. I didn't know what lawyers. I'm like, and from an immigrant family. I mean, it's good that I was in school. No, I'm just kidding. But so I was like, oh, that's cool. I think I want to do that. I don't know why. And then in this, as I grew older, I had more experience because of family members who were going through a divorce. I still don't even know if that was it, but I knew I wanted to be in law. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy the critical thinking aspect of law, but I also found that I really enjoy empathy. And I was like, oh, I could be like a therapist, right? Or law. And so I ended up being a lawyer, marrying a therapist. So it worked out.
You know what? Actually, something I just found out. I went to an event for CDRE, but tactical empathy that I've actually never heard of.
Yep.
And so the idea, right, that you're basically taking on the emotions, but not, or taking on, or understanding the feelings, but not taking on the emotions, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's be so hard to do. But
yeah, it's like connecting with my clients to understand where they're coming from in order for them to be able to move through the divorce. Like there is so much need for empathy in divorce, right? People need to trust me that I am there for them and their family, that I'm going to be very neutral in my approach and reaching an agreement. People who are like, no one's coming to me because, oh, we're so amicable. We agree on everything. They wouldn't be getting a divorce if that was true, right? And so there's definitely areas of conflict. You have to be very careful on how you phrase things, how you relate to people. You don't want to be overly empathetic because then it feels like you're biased, right? You're taking one person's side over the other. And so there is this tactical empathy, this idea of being empathetic enough to connect with the party, but not so much that it is you are aligned with them.
Makes sense. Well, okay, so you want to be in the family law space, or at least in that kind of as an attorney. So what's the first step? You get out of law school. What happens next?
So I went to Hastings, which has a family law concentration. I did it there. So I felt like I had some family law background. Ideally, you want to go to a family law firm where as an associate, you're going to learn everything, right? Some people will go solo. I decided I wanted to go within a firm so that I could learn from a senior partner, kind of get my feet wet. While I was doing that, because I had a heart for mediation, I knew that, just even from law school, they start teaching you about mediation. It falls under the umbrella of what's called alternate dispute resolution, ADR services, the idea that there's another option to resolve conflict outside of the court system. And so I went and got my master's of law in ADR from Pepperdine, which is their program is Strauss Institute. And so I did that in conjunction with my first few years of being an associate attorney. So it was fun because I would learn the mediation skills at Strauss Institute and I would use it on my clients and it would work. And I said, gosh, this is such a better way of resolving disputes. And so when I finished my master's and I had finished what I felt was sufficient time at working at law firms, then I opened up my practice, Families First, and I started to mediate full time.
Was it scary at all opening up your own practice?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely fears and concerns. One of them, I mean, even at Strauss, they had told me that, being a mediator, especially a full-time mediator, is very difficult in the field. Most people still were relying on, I hate to say it, but men and, Caucasian men, and they're reserved for judges because private judging was still a big thing in family law. That to be a full-time mediator is not common. Most people who are trying to mediate are probably meeting 20% at the table, marketing for 80% of the time. So I did have a lot of that concern that are people going to trust me who are older than me, who are more, senior than I am, and experience different, how do I relate with different cultures and ethnicities? Fortunately, we're in California and that we're like kind of a melting pot. So there's a lot of opportunities here. And so I do think that I had that concern going into it and seeing how would this work? Would this click? Is it too soon to start mediating full time? Is it too soon to kind of go that direction? Because this is really what the kind of the rule of thumb when you are talking with other people, which you should be, right? Getting mentors and things like that. They're like, too soon, too fast, right? To be a mediator, you need to have like 20 years of experience. You need to have, this kind of look and do it from this kind of angle. And so that did cause me some concerns. It was a long road.
Was there any point when you're doing that transition of kind of going on your own, I guess even being just mediator, where you were told that it was mostly white Caucasians, that every time either someone didn't want to hire you or things went wrong, that you blamed it on that stigma, or were you like past that? Because I know sometimes that can happen, right?
I don't think of myself that way, right? I
Okay.
didn't think like, oh gosh, this is an opportunity to excuse my skill set but people are
Yeah.
vocal. One time I went in for a consult and I was bringing a couple in, and my hair was curly, and she looked at me and she's like, how old are you?
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't like a hidden thing, right? Or I
Yeah.
had someone come back and say, yeah, my consulting attorney said not to use you because you're too young. So it was very vocal, and people were very, how much can you know if, at the time when I started, I was unmarried. I didn't have children. I'm married with 4 kids, but people are looking for a mediator that can connect with them, right? That can connect with them culturally. And it's part of the DEI too, is that we need more people in every profession that looks like, represents various groups. And it's become part of my practice is that I have a very diverse group of clientele, which I'm so proud of, that I'm able to connect with all sorts of people, or people can trust me enough, even if they are different, which is huge, right? Because I need to have that as a mediator.
Is there a skill set that you picked up, or is it simply that you said age and having a family and having kids that makes you more personable, I guess, to the bigger demographic? Or is there a skill set that like you start every consultation with stating this fact?
No, I think you just learn it as you go along. Like, I don't think who I am now is the same person that I was 20 years ago when I started, right? You learn by being flooded with all sorts of people, different perspectives. I'm learning from my clients all the time. I find it a very valuable part. I feel very privileged, to be honest, to be able to hear people's inner workings of their life, how they're raising their kids, what are their concerns, how they became, like, I feel like I know almost so many different kinds of, kind of like how you're interviewing me about my job is kind of what I'm learning from my clients, because I have to figure out their cash flow and how did they get there, and what do they think about their earning capacity? How long are they going to stay working like that? So I'm learning constantly. And I think by learning what's important to that person, then I have somebody else that is similar with all these various parts that I've learned. And so it helps me connect more with my clients. And so I'm always open to it. I want to learn more. I think I'm trying to be very open in the way I receive people's information, so then I can then, connect. It's all about connection, to be honest. It's so important.
The way I look at it with time, right, is that like you're saying, okay, well, this person is like this person right here, but you don't want to pigeonhole them that they are that person, but you almost like see like a roadmap of saying, okay, this is where that other person went to. Let me try to walk down this direction and see if they're going to go that direction. If they're not, okay, I can steer off, but at least I know. Yeah.
Right. Like, you learn about cultures, like remember, I'm doing divorce. So divorce is very familial. It's just like real estate, right? This is about where we live and what neighborhoods we like and the kind of things that we're looking for, school districts or not, right? Age demographics, all of it is true. It's not wrong to, like, I saw this quote and I've always thought the same thing. It's not that we don't care about skin color, right? Or culture. We see it and it's beautiful. It comes with this level of culture and importance. Like, what is important with dowry? Do people give rings back? What's happening on the family side because of this divorce? Is family going to help you raise the kids, or now that there's a divorce? And it all comes on sometimes on cultural and religious lines. And so I have to know some of it, right? I have to be open to receive, like, what's happening on your family? Who's going back to, the homeland, often India or Pakistan or in the Middle East, to get the jewelry or to exchange the jewelry? Or are we doing that at all? You know what I mean? And so that stuff you learn along the way.
Being that you've been in the business for so long and building all these structures and systems, do you have a system in place now when you start onboard new clients? Is there like a thing there to fill out? I mean, what does that process usually look like?
Yeah. So that's another thing that I kind of have picked up on the way. I quickly realized for people to be successful in their divorce, they have to have a very efficient process because of all the things we were just talking about. Family law is about family. It's emotional. It's difficult. And if there isn't a structured process to get through your divorce, I think the family law rules and procedures kind of overtake their process, and then they get lost and stuff. So I have really restructured my mediation over time to be very efficient, very structured. So people will come into an onboarding process. They get this consult afterwards, just to break it down in various. They get an engagement letter. They get contact with my team. They get onboarded. When they get started, they get a prep packet. The prep packet will have the first 2 steps in divorce, clear instructions on what to do for their first mediation. They come into mediation sessions. They know all of this in advance. They know, like, they're coming in for sessions, they're remote, 2 hours of length every other week. It's just so structured, because one of the benefits of having that in mediation is you've kind of collectively gotten the agreement of the parties that the mediator is going to now lead us. It's not a conflict between the 2 of them anymore. They both have to cooperate and participate in the mediation, which is expensive too, and requires their buy-in. So now they're both committed to do it this way, and that kind of helps resolve conflict in itself. And so that moves them through this process, and most of my couples are done under 6 months, high quality agreement. And I really account for their commitment to the process and the structure of the process. Otherwise, when I was like training for my master's of law, I realized a lot of mediators didn't have a format. And because they didn't, family law is very easy to feel like you're circling around. Do I want the house? No, I want the kids. And then we go to support. And then we talk about support, we go back to the house. And then you never finish because nobody knows where to draw the line.
Gotcha. You said that it's still expensive, mediation, but I would assume, is it what, and I know it's ballpark, but like, is it 20% of what litigation would be? Is it 30%? I mean, is there like a rough number of usually what that looks like?
Yeah, far less. For us, or I see even in the marketplace, right? Most people are paying for mediation about $5,000 to $15,000 in total fees together, right?
Okay.
If you were to do a traditional divorce, at minimum, you're probably $20,000 per person out the door without a court hearing. Go into court hearings, you're $30,000 and up. I mean, it's not uncommon for people to be paying hundreds of thousands of dollars and not be done.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, it gives that extra incentive too, right? If we can't come to a mediation, then we're going to be spending a lot more money.
Yeah. This is what I tell people. It's not just the mediator, right? It's the fear of, if we don't do this well in mediation, we don't have very good alternatives in California. You need each other to be successful, which is so ironic because they're getting a divorce because there's a breakdown in the relationship somewhere. And now I need you in order to finish this thing. So it's like, buckle up, pull up your boots and let's get going.
When you've looked at like your history of kind of where you came from, and I know you talked about overcoming the stereotype that was in that space, is there other hurdles that you've kind of worked through in your kind of journey, I guess?
Yeah, I think so, right? Definitely, because it's not like in law school, they teach you everything, right? Yeah. And so you also have to become willing and open to learning. So one, as a mediator, I have a business, so I have to learn how to run a business. Mediation, they're just looking to you for all the options and the strategies, which means you've got to be good with numbers and good with finances. So I've learned that, like, one of the things is that I'm having to learn how to run a business, how to do the marketing aspect, right? It's a business. It needs to be marketed. Then also know these inner workings of family law that isn't taught, right? It's not like we go to law school and we learn. Law school and actual practice are very different. Yes, you learn the critical thinking in law school. You learn case law and all these things, but it's not really the day-to-day of most of like family law practitioners or even all the other specialties, what we're doing. You learn it on the job.
Gotcha. So you're learning on the job. Do you have a coach? Do you have a team, like a group of people that you bounce ideas off of? Or what does that usually look like when you're coming across like a roadblock?
Yes. We have another mediator at my office, Samira Amato. She's a family law attorney and business litigator. So she and I are always collaborating. We have our team that we collaborate with. I have other groups that, like a thread with other mediators that we can cross ideas, bounce ideas back and forth, like family law attorneys. So it's super important, I think, in any profession, right, that you're connected with others, because this is kind of how you learn what worked, what didn't. There's common study groups or professional groups that do things like this, where you can meet with people so that you can stay connected and kind of learn your skill.
If we were talking, I know you have your fingers, your hands in a lot of different things, but if we were talking in 5-10 years from now, where do you see your business, other businesses, guys, growing? What does that look like, I guess?
Yeah. I love what I'm doing. Ideally, I'd love to see, as the development of AI and more people are actually like coming into my office and saying, oh, ChatGPT was showing us how to do some of the forms and then we got overwhelmed, but that there is more assistance that is readily available for parties that's high quality, that they still can do their divorce at a lower cost. And that's really my hope, even though, Families First is really what I'm doing. The complete divorce and higher quality do-it-yourself programs, I think really need a little bit more attention so that because most people are unable to afford $7,500, $15,000, $20,000, God, let alone $100,000, right? Like, just as a little note here, attorneys can put a lien against a party's home. And if that's their only asset, they're going to be paying their attorney fees, right? And it's unfortunate. I think if there's more awareness, so my hope is, to answer the question, is to be on that platform, to bring awareness to other options that still can give parties what they need in order to get through a divorce. Because I think it's still a very overwhelming process when people just can't manage it.
So you talk about the artificial intelligence space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you see that hand in hand? I'm guessing with your platform or just attorneys. I mean, how do you see that in the divorce space in the future?
I think it's going to definitely assist in divorces. I don't know that it's going to completely, like, a mediator is needed, right? Attorneys are needed. There's domestic violence, immigration issues, fiduciary breaches. All of that stuff cannot be managed by AI, right? You're going to need to go before a court. But I think it's going to provide parties an opportunity to understand the law more, understand their options more, right? They can just use it as investigative work. But then also, as these platforms develop, I think it's going to make a lot of family law space more affordable and easier to manage, because people are building programs where I could put my financial information into an easier template, and then that can be distributed, because a lot of the fees that are happening in family law are the exchange of financials and trying to go through all this financials to understand it. And AI is, this is like right in line with what AI is going to be capable to do. And so I think it's a win-win.
Do you see the family law space changing at all, incorporating more artificial intelligence?
I hope so. And I hope we're not the last ones to do it. And I don't think of it as a place to take away from what myself or colleagues are doing, but to assist us, right? Like, imagine attorneys have to go through like 500 pages of financial disclosures. They put a paralegal on it or their associate on it. Now you can feed it to AI and AI will give you the summary. It's helpful for the client, helpful for the attorney. Attorney can go find more work, and the client is going to be more satisfied because they're not getting a huge attorney fee bill. So I think it'll just, if the attorneys who are using it correctly probably are going to do better, because this is what clients are going to be looking for. Parties are going to be looking for people who are efficient.
To jump into the space of, let's say someone's listening right now and they're thinking about actually getting a divorce, right? What would be the steps that you would probably suggest of them doing from start to finish? Just kind of talking to their spouse. I mean, figuring out mediation, figuring out who the attorney they should work with. What should that process look like?
Always talk to your spouse, unless there's domestic violence, fiduciary duties that are being broken, like breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, things of that nature, right? If you're in harm or you fear your spouse, that's a different conversation. Otherwise, the most important thing I think people can do is discuss the divorce with their spouse before they start the divorce process. Nobody wants to be served divorce papers without knowing they're coming. So by doing that, you prevent the conflict that really feeds divorce and those high billable hours that I told you about. So you do best by just having that conversation. If you can't have it with your spouse, work with a therapist, another family member, a trusted third party to have that conversation with your spouse. It is going to save you so much time and money. After that, then you have to pick your process. Hopefully you can do it on your own, or mediation or collaborative practice, or one of the ADR spaces. And you try. Like, the best thing you can do is try, find someone that matches your personality and your style. And then after that, it's kind of other options, right? Settlement, conference, anything you can do to stay out of court you're going to do better.
So it sounds like kind of having a game plan of knowing what the outcome you guys are trying to get to before you even talk to an attorney is probably the best practice.
That's right.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
I didn't mention it. I have a course called Navigating Divorce. It's available on my website, Families First, that kind of breaks down all the things, right? It's about 6 hours of video. You can watch it. That's a great way to just learn a little bit about the divorce process so that you're not going into it blind.
Yeah, and go in the show notes, guys. The show notes have all Dina's information, so you can get all her social media platforms, her website, things like that. But that's great. I mean, 6 hours to save you. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. Yeah, watch the video.
Yeah, thank you.
We're coming to the end, and I appreciate you so much. Is there any last words you want to get out there for anyone listening?
If you've made your decision to get a divorce or legal separation, I can't stress it enough. You have to find that place to have the conversation with your spouse so that you set yourself up for success. There's not really another option, unfortunately, in family law. A lot of people threaten, well, if you don't do it this way, I'm going to court. That's just going to hurt you. And you really need to work together. I'm happy to help people if they think that this could be an option for them. Even if you're stuck in trial or you are headed to trial, try your hardest to take a detour, and it's called like a settlement conference. Anything you can do to move yourself out of the court space. Most of the time, if not all the time, people are doing better.
I'm going to finish off with just one last question for maybe attorneys or people that are jumping into law school. If they're thinking about joining a firm, would you have any suggestions of what they should look for in the firm, or how they even double check to make sure that firm's going to be the right fit for them?
You want to find a firm that's going to spend time with you, right? If you're coming in new and you're a new associate, new grad, you want to find someone who's going to mentor you. Usually it's the smaller offices because they just need your help, and you're going to be able to do actual legal work. So you want to check about, how much work are you going to be given? Are you going to be giving the same kind of thing over and over again? Are you going to get an experience, some client time, some things that are really going to help pivot your career, right? So that if you did want to go solo, or you want to move to a different place later, or become partner, you have the skill set to do it. You got to put in those hours in order to get there.
Thank you again so much, Dina, for being on the Road to Growth podcast. Hopefully everyone listening got some great nuggets. I mean, there's so many key takeaways you can take away from this episode, but I think one of the big ones, if you're thinking about divorce, and I've had people on this platform where they've gone through divorce and all that kind of stuff. And it took them a long time. It took them years sometimes to actually start the process, because they just felt they were in a rut and they couldn't leave. But even just watching the 6 hour video, and the person, your spouse, is on a trip or whatever it is, just to think the stuff through could probably save you many years and many dollars. So please go in the show notes, go to Dina's platform, and hopefully you got some great information. Please subscribe, please share, and go follow Dina. Bye, everyone.
Bye.